Okay, so today we're going to be graphing a quadratic function from standard form or vertex form. You can call it either or. So we have our equation right here. Y is equal to 1/4 times x minus 3 squared plus 1. So first thing we got to figure out is our direction of opening. Now we know direction of opening is directly related to whether our a value is positive or negative. So we can see that our a value here is positive 1/4, which means that our direction is going to be opening up. Okay, so that means we're going to have a little parabola that's going to look like so. Okay, now our vertex is going to be pretty easy to figure out because if you remember from standard form, which is y is equal to a times x minus p squared plus q, that our vertex is going to be p comma q. Okay, so our vertex here, our p value is 3 and our q is 1. So that means our vertex is going to be at 3 comma 1. Okay, now for axis of symmetry, remember that's when we have a parabola like so, and it's a dotted line that goes right through our vertex, which means that the equation for our axis of symmetry is going to be equal to our p value from the standard form. So we can see that p again is 3, and we know that's also the x value of our vertex because our vertex is 3 comma 1. So that means that our axis of symmetry is x equals 3. Okay, now let's work on the intercepts. This is where we're going to do a little bit more math. So I'm just going to copy our equation over here. Y is equal to 1/4 times x minus 3 squared plus 1. Okay, so in order to find our x-intercepts, let's start with those x-intercepts. Okay, we know that y has to be equal to 0. So let's go ahead and start by setting y equal to 0. So 0 is equal to 1/4 x minus 3 squared plus 1. We'll go ahead and move that 1 over. So negative 1 is equal to 1/4 times x minus 3 squared. We're going to divide by 1/4, which is the same as multiplying by 4 over 1. So negative 1 divided by 1/4 is going to give us negative 4, which is going to be equal to x minus 3 squared. Now our next step here would be to take us to the square root to cancel that square. But we're going to see here that we can't take the square root of a negative number. So that means that there are no roots. And in the case of our graph, there are no x-intercepts. Okay? Now the other intercept we have to figure out is going to be our y-intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and copy our equation down here. Y is equal to 1/4 times x minus 3 squared plus 1. Now we know when we're working with our y-intercept that x has to be equal to 0. So we're going to go ahead and do our equation and set x equal to 0. So y is equal to 1/4 times 0 minus 3 squared plus 1. Now we're just going to do some math. This is y is equal to 1/4 times negative 3 squared plus 1. We're going to do this out. Negative 3 squared is going to give us 9. So we're going to have 1/4 times 9 plus 1. So we're going to have y is equal to 9 over 4 plus 1. And that's going to give us y is equal to 18 over 4 or 9 over 2. So that means our y-intercept is going to be when x is 0, y is 9 over 2. Okay, so now our last thing we have to figure out here is our domain and range. Okay, so our domain, we already know, we'll go over here to the side. For our domain, we know this is just x is an element of a real number. And for our range, this is where we have to think a little more. We know that our vertex is going to be at 3, 1. And we know that since we're working with a positive a value, that we're going to be dealing with a minimum value. So that means that for here, y is going to be greater than or equal to our y value on the vertex, which is 1. So we scroll down here, y is going to be greater than or equal to 1. We also have to put the restriction that y is an element of a real number. So there we've kind of figured out all our characteristics. Now what we're going to do is we're going to graph it here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw our axes here. Okay, so we'll say this is 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Here we'll just go 2, 4, 6, 8, and same thing down here. -2, -2, -4. Okay, so let's pick a different color here. Let's start by graphing our vertex. So our vertex we know already is at 3, 1. So let's go ahead and plot that point. So we count over 1, 2, 3, and up 1. So our vertex is going to be right there. Okay, and now we know that our y-intercept is going to be at 0, 9 halves. Now 9 halves we can also look at as 4.5. Okay, so we're going to count up 4.5 here. So we go 4 right in the middle. This is where our parabola is going to cross the y-intercept. Sorry, our y-intercept is going to be at 4.5 is what I meant to say. So now we know that our direction is opening up and our vertex is right here at 3, 1. So we can go ahead and trace our parabola like so. We also know that we can plot a point symmetrical to our y-intercept. So that means we can go 3 over. So we can go to, let's see here. We can go over to 6 and up to 4.5 here. This will be another point, and we can trace through there. And this is the graph that represents y equals 1/4 times x minus 3 squared plus 1. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps.